I look at like treating horses or treating dogs or treating people is a lifelong learning experience. As soon as that changes and you've stopped learning, you might as well just like go sell furniture or something like that, I don't know, or go fishing. It's a lifelong learning experience.
I'm Michael Max, and this is Geological, the podcast that curates East Asian medicine and methods through the power of conversation. I've come to the point where I've given up on attempting to unweird acupuncture. Finally come to peace with that it's strange. I've arrived into a sense of acceptance that while we can scan its effects in MRIs, find glimmers of its influence in the blood, trace its trajectory through the neurology, and in general, gussy it up with science and varnish it with explanations that are satisfying to the modern mind, that in fact, acupuncture, it's just plain strange. It's strange enough that even people with a minuscule amount of training, say our friends in the dry needling world, can help people well enough that they can have a good business. It's weird that sometimes people come into my office with amnesia of having had a problem. It used to drive me crazy when on a return visit, I'd ask patients how they're doing, and they would say something along the lines of, maybe a bit better, only to find out that their main complaint has disappeared, and now they're focused on something else. It's a strange medicine that puts nothing into the body, but instead calls out a response. Think about that for a moment. It's almost like it does something that rhymes with how stem cells seem to know what to turn themselves into. Now, I'm not equating acupuncture with stem cell therapy, in part because that would be misleading, and in part because, as I said, I've given up on attempting to polish up acupuncture with something that seems sciencey. At the same time, while I find inspiration and guidance in the old books, I'm also a bit allergic to Bibles of any sort. Yes, they often enough contain a metaphorical wisdom, and it's worth attempting to decode the clinical experience of those who lived in vastly different circumstances and with an almost unimaginable view of the world and how it works. But it seems to me that the trick, if there is a trick, is to see how the medicine comes alive in your own experience. How you take whatever wisdom or inspiration or instruction and allow that to guide your sensing. And perhaps more than anything, how to figure out what works and how you know it works in your own experience. It's not enough to follow a lineage or a method. Practicing acupuncture requires that something kindles in your own heart and mind. And maybe it does lean on science or writings that have been passed down through the centuries. There are plenty of helpful roadmaps after all. But don't forget to notice the scenery that's along the particular way that you're traveling. Acupuncture is a strange path to follow. And what's more, the path that acupuncture itself has followed and flowed that brings it into the modern Western world is itself a curious journey of adaptation. Back in the 1960s, we were having a cultural war of a different flavor. The old structures of conformity and obedience to authority, they were coming apart. It was violent, disruptive, and deeply unsettling. At the same time, Tai Chi, meditation, and a sense that things could be better was also being felt, especially on the West Coast. It was in that milieu that Gene Bruno found his way into the study of acupuncture and became part of the Gang of Seven at UCLA. These guys managed to maneuver their way into studying and practicing acupuncture in an academic setting long before licensure and a general acceptance by the public. They were young, smart, and motivated. They didn't just see opportunities, they created them. In the midst of cultural change that brought us rock and roll, LSD, campus riots, free love, and the groovy happening 60s, he was part of a vanguard that led to you having a license and a career. Gene is a testament to the power of curiosity and exploration. Buckle up, friends. This trip in the Wayback Machine is going to be a wild ride. These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges, our sponsors have solutions. One of the foundations of a smooth-running clinic is having a supplier that you can rely on. Blue Poppy is your trusted source, and you can get free shipping. Mayway helps you to navigate the autumn season of change with information from their podcast and newsletter and with quality herbs. Are you licensed in California and want to get on the best-paying insurance rolls? Acucare has been helping acupuncturists do that for over 30 years. Later in the show, you'll hear about how Jane's AI scribe frees you from writing clinic notes and why golden flower Chinese herbs is old-fashioned enough not to use an automated answering system. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers that our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Running a smooth, efficient clinic starts with the right supplier, and that's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles to trusted herbal formulas, Blue Poppy supports your practice with products that you can count on. That includes their Classics line, featuring over 40 of the most popular traditional Chinese medicine patents, now available in convenient capsule form. Starting October 1st, you can save 15% on the entire Classics line. Perfect for restocking your clinical essentials. Even better, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restrictions in the continental U.S. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has been a trusted partner to licensed acupuncturists, known for high-quality products and outstanding service. Visit bluepoppy.com today to see why so many practitioners rely on Blue Poppy. And don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and updates.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Mayway Herbs. Autumn is a season of change, both in terms of weather and health, and this month at Mayway, we're focused on helping you support your patients through this challenging transition. In our newsletter and in our podcast Chinese Medicine Matters, we'll feature classic formulas for wind-related conditions, highlight traditional festivals like the Mid-Autumn and Double Ninth celebrations, and share product deep dives to help you choose the best formulas for your patients during this time of year. Since 1969, Mayway Herbs has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. Our Plum Flower brand line includes pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs. And along with educational resources, articles, and videos, we're here to help you provide the very best patient care. Please visit us at mayway.com to explore more. Deep thanks, as always, for your support. And here's to cultivating healthy resilience with the wisdom of real Chinese medicine.
Are you a California licensed acupuncturist who accepts insurance or wants to? Are you satisfied with your current reimbursements? You could be earning more. With the right support, joining top insurance networks such as Cigna is simple. Acucare was started 30 years ago by acupuncturists for acupuncturists. Acucare has already negotiated top reimbursement rates for acupuncturists. With Acucare, you'll spend more time with patients and less time battling insurance paperwork. Email acucare@acucare.com and let them help you get in-network with Cigna and other well-paying companies. Get paid what you deserve. Email acucare@acucare.com and save $100 on your credentialing application fee. Use the code PROSPER. That discount code again, PROSPER. Contact acucare@acucare.com to get higher reimbursement rates and a credentialing company you can trust. Gene Bruno, welcome to Qiological.
Well, thank you, Michael. Thank you for having me here today.
I am so happy you're joining us. Is it true? I think I heard a rumor. I don't know if it's true. I want to check it with you. You have license number 1, acupuncture license number 1 in the state of Oregon. Is that true?
No, I have license number 1 in the state of Washington.
Oh, state of Washington.
Yeah.
My old alma mater.
Yeah, that's an interesting little story that I forgot about, but you reminded me. But no, my license is number 27 in the state of Oregon. License.
All right, that's still pretty early on.
Yeah, and license number 1 and 2 were Mi-Fu Shu and Dr. William Prensky. Dr. Mi-Fu Shu and William Prensky. And they were the two first examiners on the board, acupuncturists on the medical board in Oregon.
I've never heard of either of those characters.
Oh, William Prensky. Yeah, we need to talk about William Prensky. Critic.
All right, we're going to do that because we're hopping in the Wayback Machine here.
Yeah, okay.
And we're setting the dial for when you first heard about acupuncture.
Oh.
I suspect you didn't grow up with acupuncture.
No.
I'm curious to know what was going on in your world. In fact, what was going on in the larger world as well when you first heard about acupuncture and somehow thought, hey, that sounds like a good idea.
Well, I first heard about it through a friend of mine, Elliot Green, in 1969. So this is I'm in California.
Mm-hmm.
Elliot is pre-medical. He eventually went to dental school, actually, and I was a double major in English literature and also pre-med. But anyway, I heard about it through him, and it was very hard to get books about it, of course, at that time. Nobody knew.
I would think almost impossible.
Yeah, I mean, no.
What was available?
There was Ping's book was available. There were a couple books in German, a couple books in French. But, okay, that's another... Well, so my story is that I heard about it, right? And in terms of our world then, well, we were in the midst of the blow-up of the Vietnam War. And then I'm at UCLA, 1970, and Kent State happened.
Oh.
The murders at Kent State.
Yes.
Okay, so...
Yes.
And so almost simultaneously across the country, hundreds of universities and colleges went on strike or had protests.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we had one at UCLA, and William Prensky was the one who actually ended up being in France Hall. We had this gathering of all the students of the school and then student speakers. There were no teachers involved, or this was like a spontaneous response to what was going on. It would have just happened the day before at Kent State, which was like early spring of 1970. And in the end, William Prensky ended up being the person who led the organization for us to go on strike. I knew him. He appointed me as the inter-campus communications director because we were going to set up contacts for all the other campuses to find out what was going on there, what they were doing, were the National Guard showing up and shooting anybody else anywhere else. You know, you can imagine no internet at the time. Communications were controlled by the media, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and at the time, we were all living in a world where large of us were rejecting the idea that we had to go off to foreign wars, and we also knew, of course, that we'd been lied to about the Beatong and a whole number of things that led up to it, and it had been going on for 5 or 6 years. We also suspected that it was just simply a power play that had nothing to do with the domino theory of communism falling into our world, right? It was a military complex decision, and we objected to that. But then, when these students were killed at Kent State, there was just a mass revolt across the country.
It really lit things on fire.
Yeah. I was one of the two teaching assistants at the time for Angela Davis. You know who that is?
Oh my goodness, seriously?
Yeah. So I was in the thick of it, my friend.
Yeah, you were.
Oh, I remember sitting there during a strike, sitting on this little desk. Well, she's at her desk in a chair, the other teaching assistant's in a chair, and I'm just sitting on this table nearby talking, and this guy walks in the room, completely obvious, like 38-year-old FBI agent wearing really cool rags and sitting down and saying, "Hey, let's get the revolution going."
Sure, dude.
There There were FBI provocateurs all over the campus at the time. But
now,
yeah,
can you remember what class you were taking with Angela Davis at that time?
I wasn't taking so the class. It was existentialism. I wasn't taking the class with her. I was her teaching assistant.
Oh, you were teaching assistant. Okay, that's right. Wow, existentialism.
Yeah.
With Angela Davis.
Yeah.
And it was William Prensky that talks to you about acupuncture?
So, well, initially it was Elliot Green, but then Bill and I became very close friends during that whole thing. I hadn't known him well before that, but I knew of him through this group that Elliot was a part of. And I'd heard that there was a first class that Dr. Gimshek-Ju was teaching, and there could be a second class. And eventually that's the class that Elliot and I were in. The first class was William Prensky, Stephen Rosenblatt.
Oh, yeah.
John Ottaviano, who he and I later became the co-directors of the Animal Veterinary Acupuncture Project. But at the time, there was an institute, the Institute for Taoist Studies, which was the organization of Bill. This is really all Bill Prensky. Bill Prensky really, without him, none of this could have happened. He was just a genius at putting people together and communicating with the powers that be that we had to deal with at the time. There's no licensing for acupuncture anywhere at this time. Not until 76 in California, late 73 in Oregon, and the very end of 73 in Nevada. But, so we were kind of, we're studying with, the first class was studying with Kim, and then I got into the second class because of Prensky. And in 1971, just a year later or so, when Rustin came back from his trip to China, and wrote about the acupuncture. Well, at that time, we actually had offices in Westwood, California, and the new organization was the National Acupuncture Association.
This was before Preston or concurrent?
This was, the Institute for Taoist Studies was before, and so was the National Acupuncture Association.
Wow.
Okay.
You guys were ahead of your time.
But as soon as he got back and wrote the article, so our phones didn't really ring at that office. We were calling out, we were trying to work. There were several medical doctors who were interested, and we were trying to build relations. We had someone named David Bressler who was in the Department of Psychology at UCLA, and he was trying to make connections with different departments in the medical school. And then when the whole thing exploded because of this article out of New York, our phone didn't ever stop ringing. We were able to make the connections that we needed to at UCLA. And so there was, through the Department of Anesthesiology, through the director there, Katz, at the medical school, we were able to open a clinic under a research protocol that was legal, because nobody legally could really practice. There were certain medical doctors by 73 and 74 that were practicing in California, but it was kind of, the medical board did not, it wasn't really legal, even for medical doctors, but it was quasi-legal under their license where their scope was completely open to do everything, right?
Yeah, and they can use needles as part of their scope of practice, so...
Yeah.
There you have it.
Yeah. So, but lay people couldn't do it, except at UCLA, it was legal.
Because you were part of this program.
Well, because there was not a statute or a law, but there was a medical board rule that said under research protocols in medical schools for, certain reasons it could proceed. And unlicensed lay people non-medical doctors could do acupuncture under this research protocol. So Stephen Rosenblatt was the lead acupuncturist there at UCLA, and we brought in two other acupuncturists, a man and a woman, actually, from China. Will Prensky was working there, and eventually Dr. So Tinyao. Mm-hmm. And the research protocol we developed was basically it was all about treating painful conditions. Okay, but as you know, there are a number of conditions where a person shows up with pain, but we're not really treating the pain. We're treating the underlying cause, and in many cases, we're actually treating multiple conditions at the same time, including the pain. So our goal was just to help patients,
of course,
under that pain protocol. Yeah,
I would say it's the same. It's the same as today.
Yeah,
people come in and they complain of pain, and we start to get a larger picture of what's going on. And it's like you can't disconnect that pain from everything else that's going on in their life.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now,
go ahead.
What was it? I mean, I get that things are a turmoil. You're TAing with Angela Davis. All right, that already puts you in interesting company. You're in UCLA. All right, it's a happening thing there in the 60s in California. You know, it was just that you're at the edge of the zeitgeist.
Yeah.
Pretty cool place to be, a young person.
Yeah.
But what is it about acupuncture, Gene, that got your attention? What was it about this stuff that made you think, oh, I want to know more, or this is what I'm looking for? I mean, what was it that drew you into it?
Well, it's several things. I mean, part of it was, I don't know if it was a coincidence or fate, but I was studying Tai Chi Chuan with a number of people, including Prensky, Rosenblatt, and a number of others. Our instructor was Marshall Ho over in East Los Angeles. And eventually, he had suggested the very first group who had started studying with him, he had approached them and said, listen, if you want to study more of our Chinese culture, because he saw they were serious. This was back in early 69. I didn't join there until 70, but what I know happened is that he suggested Chinese cooking or Chinese herbology or Chinese medicine, and and I know that Prensky asked him what he meant by Chinese medicine. He said acupuncture, and you can imagine these blank faces. What is that? Oh, what do you mean? Mm-hmm. And he said, and he explained it to them, and he said, and he knew a teacher who could very possibly help them with that, which is how this small group got introduced to Dr. Gimshek Ju. And it was kind of like, it was a group team effort led by William Prensky. And eventually what happened is that after the first class was completed and the second class was about to begin, Dr. Kim told the group that, and this was on Cottage Street in Chinatown in Los Angeles, he told the group that they now had to go and finish their study with the master, which was a very classical tradition. Mm-hmm. And then they discovered that the master was in Hong Kong. And now here's a bunch of poor. I remember Prensky came to me because we were getting ready to start second class, and he was telling me about this. We're just a bunch of poor, starving students, right? And how is this going to happen? There's no way that. So what actually occurred is that at this point the NEA is started, but we went out and got sponsors. We raised money. Stephen Rosenblatt and Kathy Farrick were the only two. Kathy was Stephen's partner at the time, and they were the only two that had the wherewithal and time and availability to actually go. So Stephen volunteered, but what happened was the NEA raised the money so that they could go and pay for their trip expenses for the school with Dr. So, and then they would come back and share that information with us. I still actually have the notes from that.
Oh, wow.
It was Dr. So's.
The original notes, you still have that?
From the Hong Kong Acupuncture College.
Oh, you know what?
It's crazy, right?
That That is an artifact
I still have
that should be that I think should be published.
I still have the seal from the Institute of Taoist Studies. It's sitting upstairs in my office. Like, what am I going to do with this? Somebody should have this. I mean, this was really the first course that white guys got to take, I think, in this country, right? Anyway. So Stephen came back, and then what followed was, the work that the NAA did, the National Acupuncture Association did in order to start up the clinic at UCLA. And then also a part of that was conferences and, so now China's open and Reston's article is published and we're getting calls all the time. So there were a number.
Who are you getting calls from?
Medical doctors and veterinarians.
Medical doctor, and they want to learn it? They want to do it?
Yeah, so that's what they said. So there literally were a number of conferences at UCLA. There was one at the dental school at USC, but it wasn't just dentists. There were medical doctors involved with that. The one that went on longer was the clinics that we held at UCLA. They said they wanted to learn it. And something very interesting happened. So we had this one weekend, which was like the kind of a final module of teaching doctors at UCLA and some dentists. There were presentations, there were clinics. A number of the doctors finally who came to us, including Katz, who was the head of anesthesiology at the medical school, said, this is way more complex and involved than we ever imagined. I don't know how we're going to be able to spend. They basically, a number of them said, why don't you guys just do it? You just we'll help you do it. And I think this wasn't the majority of the medical doctors. These were the ones that we had like close relationships with, like Dr. Kronig, for example, who was an anesthesiologist, who was one of the doctors at the UCLA pain clinic that was going on, and Katz and others. I think what practitioners don't realize, there was a fine, like razor's edge moment where if Bill Prensky, who really put all this together and deserves most of the credit for making this work, if he hadn't done that work, if the National Acupuncture Association team had not been working that way, within a few months, the medical doctors would have taken this over. There'd be no lay people practicing acupuncture today.
It would be like France.
Yeah, exactly. At the same time, we were also there was a lot of research going on. There was a lot of speculation about, is this real? Is this not so real? Well, I was a skeptic from day one, actually, in the very beginning, even though I was close friends with Elliot and Bill. So what I did was, just before I got into the second class, I thought, I started taking friends of mine or mothers of friends who had ailments that couldn't be treated, like severe migraine headaches and things like that. I started taking them to Dr. Ju to get treated. And he was curing them. I mean, literally.
You're doing a little research study. Let's see what acupuncture does against the standard of care, which
exactly
doesn't have anything to offer.
Right. And so eventually, for example, this one girl that I had dated previously, I knew her mother had migraine headaches. I knew that she had gone through all kinds of medication. It did not help. And about every 3 or 4 weeks, she would crash, and got her into Dr. Kim. 3 treatments, headaches gone, never came back. So I'm going, okay, wait a second.
That got your attention, didn't it?
There's something here, okay? I know. So I'm a skeptic. Okay, well, that's fine. We can get over being skeptical when you see this kind of absolute, substantial, amazing, result.
These conversations come to you through the generous support of our sponsors and members. You have clinic challenges, our sponsors have solutions. One of the foundations of a smooth-running clinic is having a supplier that you can rely on. Blue Poppy is your trusted source, And you can get free shipping. Mayway helps you to navigate the autumn season of change with information from their podcast and newsletter and with quality herbs. Are you licensed in California and want to get on the best paying insurance rolls? Acucare has been helping acupuncturists do that for over 30 years. Later in the show, you'll hear about how Jane's AI scribe frees you from writing clinic notes and why golden flower Chinese herbs is old-fashioned enough not to use an automated answering system. Do be sure to visit the sponsors page on the Qiological website to take advantage of all the special offers that our terrific sponsors have for listeners of the podcast. Running a smooth, efficient clinic starts with the right supplier, and that's where Blue Poppy comes in. From premium acupuncture needles to trusted herbal formulas, Blue Poppy supports your practice with products that you can count on. That includes their Classics line, featuring over 40 of the most popular traditional Chinese medicine patents, now available in convenient capsule form. Starting October 1st, you can save 15% on the entire Classics line, perfect for restocking your clinical essentials. Even better, Blue Poppy offers free shipping on all orders over $50 with no restrictions in the continental U.S. For nearly 40 years, Blue Poppy has been a trusted partner to licensed acupuncturists, known for high-quality products and outstanding service. Visit BluePoppy.com today to see why so many practitioners rely on Blue Poppy. And don't forget to subscribe to their mailing list for exclusive offers and updates.
Hi folks, I'm Yvonne Lau, president of Mayway Herbs. Autumn is a season of change, both in terms of weather and health, and this month at Mayway, we're focused on helping you support your patients through this challenging transition. In our newsletter and in our podcast Chinese Medicine Matters, we'll feature classic formulas for wind-related conditions, highlight traditional festivals like the Mid-Autumn and Double Nine celebrations, and share product deep dives to help you choose the best formulas for your patients during this time of year. Since 1969, Mayway Herbs has been a trusted source for high-quality herbal products. Our Plum Flower brand line includes pills, tablets, extract granules, and organic herbs. And along with educational resources, articles, and videos, we're here to help you provide the very best patient care. Please visit us at mayway.com to explore more. Deep thanks, as always, for your support. And here's to cultivating healthy resilience with the wisdom of real Chinese medicine.
Are you a California licensed acupuncturist who accepts insurance or wants to? Are you satisfied with your current reimbursements? You could be earning more. With the right support, joining top insurance networks such as Cigna is simple. Acucare was started 30 years ago by acupuncturists for acupuncturists. Acucare has already negotiated top reimbursement rates for acupuncturists. With Acucare, you'll spend more time with patients and less time battling insurance paperwork. Email acucare@acucare.com and let them help you get in-network with Cigna and other well-paying companies. Get paid what you deserve. Email acucare@acucare.com and save $100 on your credentialing application fee. Use the code PROSPER. That discount code again, PROSPER. Contact acucare@acucare.com to get higher reimbursement rates and a credentialing company you can trust. Well, I have to tell you, Gene, I live in St. Louis, Missouri. The motto of the state of Missouri is show me.
Right, yeah.
Okay? If you go to my website, if you go to my clinic website, like within the first paragraph or two, I use the word skeptic. Like, are you skeptical about acupuncture? You should be. You didn't grow up with this. Most people didn't grow up with it. I think skepticism is not a bad place to stand. Okay? Denying is usually not so helpful.
No, yeah.
But being like curiously skeptical, like, I don't know about this, and let's run some kind of test. Let's find out. Let's dig into it. I think it's a very helpful stance.
No, I totally agree, Michael. I mean, it was part of my scientific mind background. That's just how I work. And yeah.
Exactly. I mean, the scientific method's fabulous for that.
Yeah.
Like, how do I parse reality from my imagination?
Absolutely. Yeah. At the same time, so there was this whole, there were still people going, well, I don't know. So interestingly enough, we started getting calls from a number of veterinarians at the National Acupuncture Association. So one day, Bill comes in, talks to me, and he says, you know what, I want you to hook up with John Ottaviano because we're getting all these vet calls. And, and I was thinking, well, this can be kind of crazy. Still, there's no licensing for anything, and we're not vets, right? I had already treated Bill's dog, Fen Chen, for hip dysplasia, and that was resolved. And John was treating dogs and some cats. And there was this one vet, Dick Glassberg, who was just relentless. He would just keep calling. He didn't, even though I think Bill and others were saying, no, we don't treat animals. He didn't give up. So which is great, actually. I mean, so we finally agreed to that. We said, okay, look it. And so when John and I talked to him, we said, okay, here's the deal. We'll teach you the acupuncture for animals, but you have to teach us comparative anatomy. You have to basically take us to vet school.
Oh, that's a good deal.
Yeah, we thought it was a good deal, and he agreed.
Yeah.
And so the National Acupuncture Association Veterinary Acupuncture Division began. And that was 1972. Now, as a context, animal acupuncture was not being done in China at the time. They didn't do it until 1976. However, originally, it's 3,000 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Of course.
It's just by about the 10th century, it had declined. The Chinese were more into husbandry and using certain herbs and different things. And there was really, after the 10th century, there were no texts at all on animal acupuncture. Unfortunately, the good texts from the 6th century were lost. They're referred to in other later texts, but yeah. But originally, a horse was kind of a very important part of the Chinese military, right?
Oh, gosh, yes.
And so equine acupuncture they didn't treat dogs. There were never any books on dogs or cats, but primarily horses, and some notes on some other farm animals later on, but it was 90%, 95% really all about equine acupuncture.
So veterinarian acupuncture, in a sense, is rebirthed and resurges in America in the 70s.
Yeah, basically John and I introduced it to the United States, and then we discovered later we actually had reintroduced it to the world. What the heck is going on here? I mean, it's like, I don't... Because we were looking everywhere to find anything, and there was nothing. So we worked with Dick Glassberg, and then he introduced us he wanted us to treat horses. He said, you gotta meet this other vet I know, Alice DeGroot, who, interestingly enough, was a veterinarian at a horse race ranch out in Chino, California. And the owner of the ranch was Earl Scheib. You ever heard of that name?
Oh, Earl Scheib, the tire mogul.
No, I will paint any car any color you want for $39.99.
Oh no, painting. That's right. Who was the guy with the tires?
Oh, Les Schwab.
Oh, Les Schwab. That's it. Okay.
This was Earl Scheib.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Who evidently was
similar. Yeah. No, I remember. Yeah. Any car for $99.
Right. Well, so you
got to be from the West Coast to know those names.
So Alice DeGroot, she is this resident veterinarian at the ranch, lives there, her own apartment, and he's got a ton of horses that she's taking care of, and she's got trainers, and so somehow or another, from what I remember, is that Dr. Glassberg, Earl Scheib brought his dogs to Dick, okay, and so Glassberg obviously mentioned it to him. So Earl Scheib said, "Hey, I want you to come out. I want these guys to come out and treat my horses." And so we go out there thinking this is all fine. We don't know that basically, so he's the owner, so he tells Alice de Groot what he wants done, but she's not buying it. I mean, she's not buying it.
Oh, she's not having any of it.
I guess he sent other crazy people out there, and she told us some crazy stories about these guys. Right? So we get out there, and she goes, okay, I got a horse for you to treat. And she brings out a horse that's in the last stages of what equestrians call heaves, which is simply, it's emphysema.
Okay.
And this horse is hardly walk, and the horse is going to die. Mm-hmm. So this is her way to get.
Yeah, here, doc, try this.
Here, go this. And this is her way to get rid of us, right? And I don't have to talk to you anymore and go away and don't ever come back.
Yeah, well, good idea.
Right. So the thing is, at the time, so John and I are like 23 years old. These two really kind of like white Italians who look like we just graduated from high school or something. So in order,
which you almost have,
pretty much. So in order to present ourselves, Prensky comes up with the idea that we're going to have a Korean acupuncturist with us. And that was Son Shin, who was really just kind of learning acupuncture, I could put it like that, from his uncle, who was an acupuncturist who wanted nothing to do with animals or us. But anyway, so we're out there, and so
a bunch of damn black sheep out at the horse ranch.
Yeah, and so anyway, so we treat this horse. We're just using 3 or 4 points bilaterally for the lungs. We'll leave the needles in. Within about 12 minutes or so, the breathing, you could actually hear this horse breathing. I mean, it was just like it was excruciating. And all of a sudden, the breathing normalized. So we go over, take the needles out, and within about another 5 or 10 minutes, the breathing is actually normalized. It was obvious. It was like distinctly different. And the horses brightened up a little bit and seemed to be able to walk easier. And Alice de Groot looked at us like we had just landed from a different planet.
Yes, well, you had.
Like, who the heck are you guys?
Who are you and what the hell is this stuff?
She said, what do we do? And John said, well, we'll come back next week. We need to treat the horse a few more times. It's not a one-time thing. Okay, and so the horse eventually got 3 treatments, and after the 3rd treatment, completely normal breathing. She put the stethoscope on. She could not believe it. She couldn't believe it, right?
Yeah.
I actually ended up treating that horse about a year after that when I was out there once, because it had recurred, which I'm not surprised though. But she looked at us and said, so what else can you do? And I looked at John, and John looked at me, and Jacques and Shin is looking at me, and I just said, we would really like to treat conditions that you find it either difficult or even impossible to treat. We want to learn what those conditions are to see if we can help, because this is just about treating. It's about helping the animals. That's all we care about. And she said, well, can you treat laminitis? And John and I looked at each other. I said, what is that? And so, it happens to be a inflammation of the lamina in the hoof of a horse. It is very common and ultimately will lead to the death of a horse.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
So that's serious.
It's really serious. The only thing that's more serious, the most common, is colic, which will, so most horses, the majority of horses that die from colic. But, and so that veterinary project began, and eventually, so here's something that's interesting historically. So John and I are showing up there, right? But that's not legal, right? I mean, we're not licensed to do this. We don't have an arrangement. We're not even working under their veterinary license, like kind of a loose contract or anything. We're not So about 3 months in, I think it was towards the end of 72 or maybe early 73. We go out to the barn, and so in Chino at Alice de Groot, and she goes, "Okay, you guys are good. You're legal." And I said, "What?" She said, "Yeah, Glassberg and I went to the veterinary board, and you are now certified to treat animals without a veterinary license in California. You too."
Oh, wow.
Now, at that point, see, Dr. Shin Shin had left. He was only with us for about 2 or 3 months, and then he disappeared. So it was just John and I. He was gone. And then she said, and now you need to go out to the California Racing Commission. And we said, what are you talking about? She goes, well, even if you're a vet, you just can't go on the racetrack. You have to be certified by the Racing Commission. Mm-hmm. So they took us to the Racing Commission, and John and I got certified. So then we started treating at Hollywood Park and Santa Anita and Del Mar, kind of the major race tracks there, because a lot of horses, a lot of problems, right?
High-end horses, high-maintenance horses.
Yeah, very, very high-end horses,
Wow.
Yeah, and
you're just out there dinking around trying to figure out how's this stuff work and how can we use it?
Yeah.
And you end up certified just because you showed up and you were helpful and someone noticed it.
Isn't that crazy? But, I mean...
Gene, yes, it's crazy, and no, it's not. Like both of those at the same time, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Because when something is ridiculously helpful, most people are going to want more of it. How can we use this?
Right.
This is what makes humans such interesting critters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like, look at any technology, internet technology, tool technology, whatever. There's the stuff that something's been invented for, and then there's the way that humans figure out how to use it for uses that you would have never thought of.
Right.
So we're just innately tool-using curious creatures like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is something. Hey, I want to ask you, you were with that group at UCLA, working in the anesthesia department, okay? I remember hearing, I don't know, long time ago, maybe I was just beginning my acupuncture studies, that acupuncture was used as an anesthetic.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, did you guys actually do any of that? Because I've never seen it done. I've never actually seen it done.
Oh.
And even in my time in China,
yeah,
I've never seen people use it as an anesthetic. Now, look, I wasn't going to try to learn acupuncture anesthesiology either, so
right.
So there's that.
Okay.
But I'm curious to know, like, what's the story with that?
We did a bunch of that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. So to clarify a little bit, so I wasn't a practicing acupuncturist at UCLA. I was volunteering there as an observer. I'm still in training, observing Rosenblatt, observing Dr. So, okay? But I was there, until the veterinary acupuncture project went up, and then John and I were working 8 days a week. Okay, Buddy used to...
Oh my God! Well, you were just like completely recruited into that, weren't you?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because I was successful treating dogs, and I knew nothing about horses. I mean, Alistair Groot really taught me everything I knew about horses back in the day. I mean, I used to ride horses, but that doesn't count. I mean, I started riding horses when I was 5 years old, but that doesn't really count. That doesn't mean...
Well, you know what? I'm going to push you on this for a moment. Maybe it counts because when you know something, whether it's an animal or a game or a tool or anything, you kind of get something about it, right? You grok something.
Yeah, I mean, I felt really connected to horses in an amazing way since I was 5 years old. But
yeah,
but still pretty ignorant in a lot of ways. So like one of the things, like, so John and I discovered. I'll answer the thing about anesthesia. Just one comment is like, we discovered over time. We were taught by our teachers, Dr. Ju and Dr. So. You have empirically. Mm-hmm. You test it, you prove it, you prove it, you prove it, and you prove it. You don't just and there were the charts that we looked at that we got that Prensky and I took to Dr. Ju, and that were off horses that were maybe I don't know from the 14th or 15th century had nothing to do with acupuncture. It was about cauterization. Anyway, he said, no, this is no good. So John and I we had to discover the points, okay? And the easy thing to think about is, well, we're just going to transpose these points. Mm-hmm. But we didn't do that because that's not how we were taught. In fact, we discovered there are points on the horse that don't exist on the human.
Oh.
And there are points on the human that don't exist on the horse.
Okay.
I mean.
How did you do that?
Well,
Right. Point location's a big thing in acupuncture. Point location.
Where would you find large intestine 4 on a horse? First of all, they stand on their middle finger. Can you imagine you're standing on your middle finger? Okay.
Yeah.
There's no thumb. There's no first finger, third, fourth, or fifth. How would you find large intestine 4? Where would it be? If you find a location that would correspond to large intestine 4, you find that there's no nerve or muscle. There's no muscle there at all. There's no nerve innervation. Wait a second. It's just, that is a whole story, which I would love to talk to you about. But I know that, animal acupuncture has been a part of my life for the last 50 years too. Taught courses in it. Still teaching courses in it.
Yeah, still learning about it too to some degree, right?
Yeah, exactly. I look at like treating horses or treating dogs or treating people is a lifelong learning experience. As soon as that changes and you've stopped learning, you might as well just like go sell furniture or something like that. I don't know, or go fishing. But yeah, it's a lifelong learning experience. Yeah, but at UCLA, you have to understand. So for some reason, when these anesthesiologists came back from China, they were all excited about, well, acupuncture can be used for anesthesia. Actually, it's analgesia because there isn't any numbness, okay? So you're not, and some of the early things we were doing were dental. So we were, using points like large intestine 4, for example, to extract teeth. And according to Western neurology, that doesn't make any sense at all. In fact, at the time, there was the Melzack and Wall's single gate theory of nerve innervation and pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually our group ended up writing a paper that showed that was incorrect because it didn't account for the fact that we could put a needle into a nerve that was spinal nerve innervation, but yet it created analgesia in an area that was controlled by cranial nerve innervation.
That must have gotten everybody's head scratching.
Oh, they were actually pissed. They wanted they wanted the paper to be withdrawn from the pain conference. Because it's just like, really? Okay. Anyways.
Yeah. Well, this, look, when Thomas Kuhn talked about this, right? When you're far enough outside of a paradigm, the stuff that is not within that paradigm, it has to not be looked at. And if it's looked at, you have to somehow get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, actually, what happened was eventually Melzack and Wall came up with their double gate pain theory. Anyway, so what we were doing dental analgesia. Okay. We were also using it in childbirth.
Okay. Wait, hang on a second. Dental analgesia. So you're working with patients.
Right.
They're having teeth extracted.
Right.
And they're just wacky enough to go on this ride of, we're going to put a few needles in your hand and this is going to be comfortable for you.
Yeah, well, actually, so it was done very methodically. So, for example, like I mentioned Elliot Green, who did become a dentist. It was part of our team at the National Acupuncture Association. And he was in the second class that I was in with Dr. Kim. Okay, so needles would be put in, and then he would do a probe to see that they were numb.
Oh, okay.
The other thing that dentists kept telling us,
fascinating,
that Elliot told us, how they use epinephrine to reduce a little bit of the bleeding with dental work. The acupuncture had the same effect.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And also there was, at least, as I remember, at least one major orthopedic surgery with just acupuncture. Yeah. Huge surgery. They removed an intermedullary pin out of a lady's leg up, that was with no drugs, only acupuncture. And she was talking the whole time.
Any idea why this hasn't caught on?
Well,
other than it's kind of weird.
I know, it is kind of weird. Eventually, okay, so just to regress a little bit, well, no, actually move forward. Prensky and Rosenblatt, Kathy Farrick, and myself, Dr. So, we ended up leaving UCLA in 1974, and we went to Boston, where, as a part of that journey, we opened the James Stevens Acupuncture Center with a Dr. Portner, and then Dr. So did a course. It was the first real full course in acupuncture for the public, for students. It became the New England School of Acupuncture the following year.
Now, what took you guys to Boston?
What?
Why Boston? That's across the damn country.
Oh, well, here's the deal. In Boston, you didn't need a license to practice acupuncture. They allowed medical doctors full reign, right? They could just go ahead and do it. Now, the thing is that we were in Oregon. There was a chance to work up there at a pain center, and that never worked out completely because they didn't want the whole team. And Bill Prensky, they wanted Bill Prensky, and that was pretty much it, and Dr. So. But what happened is that Bill said, no, you either take our whole team, or nothing. And so they said, no, we're not going to take the whole team. So then Bill arranged for us to go to Boston, where we could work under a medical doctor's license, open a clinic, start a school.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. It was a more friendly environment.
Way more, yeah.
To actually be able to practice medicine.
Exactly. And so we did that. And while I was there, one of the things I did was I worked with some dentists, and this one dentist, who was my dentist at the time, said, hey, listen, would you do the acupuncture for me? Because I got to have these 2 molars taken out. And I said, okay, we can do that. It turns out that the dean of Harvard Dental School was his dentist who took his 2 molars out at the same time, and he had almost no pain at all and very little bleeding. And this dean, who was kind of like a little wizard kind of guy, said, he would comment like, there's not that much bleeding. This is kind of cool. But when it was all done, it was like, he didn't say, hey, can you show me how to do that so I can use that? Especially, for example, like there are patients who do not do very well with lidocaine or marcaine right? They don't get numb.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience over the years is most children under the age of 7 don't respond the same way to that medication and get very numb, which is why they're always screaming in the dental office. And so what a great application. And I've had dentists call me at different times over the years and say, hey, will you come in and do this? Because I've got this 37-year-old lady who needs this work done, and she does not go numb. And we don't want to, use a general. And the acupuncture works fine.
I'm really happy to hear this. Again, it's something I've heard about, but I didn't know if it was some kind of myth or some...
Not at all.
...creation story we told.
Okay, so...
This is a real thing.
And it is, and here's part 2 of that. So you can imagine in, say, a dental surgery, for example, even, or in birthing delivery, or especially orthopedic surgery, we have to stay out of the surgical field, right?
Mm-hmm.
So at the time we thought, okay, here's an idea. What if we build a machine, a microcurrent and a milliamp machine, okay? And so I think we had 5, and we had 5 machines built, and I don't know there were any machines like this ever before. And so I had a machine, Prensky had a machine, Rosenblatt had a machine, Elliott had a machine, and I think Ottaviano didn't have a machine. One of our other people had a machine, and over the years we lost them all, unfortunately, because this was maybe the first microcurrent milliamp machine, and that way we could hook up wires to that and then to needles and stay out of the surgical field.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now, what got you guys thinking about micro and milliamperage?
Originally, that's a good question. I don't know if I know why. I mean, I've worked with microamp for many years now, specifically for treating macular degeneration, but and it's microcurrent only. But why do we? I guess I don't know why we had the microamp capability at the time. Most of the time we were using the milliamp because we wanted a stronger stimulation.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we were using mostly like
using more juice,
1, 2, or 3 milliamps rather than using the microamp. And what we would do is, in fact, Stephen Rosenblatt and I used that in a research study, probably the first one ever done at Harvard Medical School back in 1974 and 75. We were both part of a research study by at Harvard Medical School under a research protocol by Dr. Gene Smith, looking at acupuncture, electrical acupuncture, and reducing pain situations, treating pain. And it was a controlled study. The pain was created by a blood pressure cuff on a person's arm. Anyway, it was a weird thing at the time, but it was interesting to and so we were using actually milliamp stimulators at the time to treat it. We also had the option of not using the electrical. But
wow, you've been on the cutting edge of so many interesting things.
Oh gosh,
Now, you just said that you're using this today to treat macular degeneration.
Yeah. So interesting. So I don't know. So after though we weren't like necessarily the inventors of these machines, but we were the ones that first used it in terms of patients and related to stimulation of acupuncture points on the body. Okay. Well, then certain other entrepreneurs. You've heard of the Accuscope? It was a micro.
I don't think I've heard of the Acu. I'm familiar with Pantheon.
Yeah, before that was Accuscope, which is an earlier microcurrent and milliamp machine that was pretty much marketed entirely to chiropractors who could use electrical stimulation machines. But acupuncturists, some of them used it, and it was one of those, one of those things back in the early 80s that showed up, and, but it was like $6,000, which, acupuncture.
That was a lot of money back then.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, one of my previous students, a veterinarian, Dr. Joel Rawson, became one of the distributors for the Accuscope, the West Coast and then later on the East Coast. Okay, so he used it all the time, and he would do teaching seminars for doctors too, not just chiropractic doctors, but medical doctors. And in one of his seminars, I know it was in 1999, this doctor came up to him and said, I was wondering, can you use this to treat other things besides musculoskeletal problems? And Joel said, yes, you can. And she said, can you treat RP, which was a condition she had, an eye condition, retinitis pigmentosa.
Right.
Which in certain ways is similar to macular degeneration.
Yeah, except it's like from the outside in instead of inside out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And he said, let me get back to you. So Joel calls me and asks me about it, and I said, yeah, using the microcurrent machine, that's an interesting idea. Because even though I had treated very few cases of RP, I had treated some cases of macular, and it was successful temporarily. It was impractical financially. You'd have to treat the patient, every week for the rest of their life. I didn't know why at the time, but later we discovered the genetic switch that turns on in age-related and also the juvenile form basically reduces ATP to the retina. So there's just less energy for the eye to do its normal functional things like reproducing cells every month or two, regulating blood circulation and nutrient absorption. Those things, just removing waste products.
Normal physiological metabolism.
Right. So, yeah. So Joel was wondering, well, what if we stimulate the points, and what points would they be, and what would the frequencies be? So I gave him the 4 frequencies and showed him, these are the points you use, okay? And at the time, the machine he had a probe. It was so I told him, here are a couple points, but the important points are going to be, the most important point will be this point, yao, the foramen above the eye, and some of the other points around the eye. I said, if you want to deliver the microcurrent back to the retina, that's what you should do. So they set up a research study, and they had a neuro-ophthalmologist do the study. And they had some cases of RP, and they had some cases of macular degeneration, they had some cases of glaucoma, and the results were outstanding. So eventually Joel developed a machine, and myself and several other doctors in the country started using it to treat. Most of the cases were macular because it's really epidemic. Yeah. So that's my connection with using the microstim for treating eye problems.
Golden Flower Chinese Herbs is celebrating 35 years of existence. Wow, what a journey it's been. It started because the baby boom generation was frustrated with conventional medicine. In the 1970s, there was a resurgence of interest in what was considered natural healing modalities. After President Nixon's visit to China, acupuncture started to emerge from the Chinese communities into greater awareness. It was a magical moment. 2025 is the 50th anniversary of the legal practice of acupuncture in the state of California. Oh my, the awareness and access to acupuncture has grown incredibly. So much has changed since back then. But some hasn't. Like many companies, Golden Flower Chinese Herbs does a lot of business through their excellent website. But they still have real humans who answer the phones. You won't get lost in a voicemail messaging maze when you call. Like our medicine, Golden Flower Chinese Herbs is a bit old-fashioned. Visit them at gfcherbs.com or pick up the phone and give them a call. I'm surprised that this isn't more widely known in our profession.
It's kind of shocking. I taught a course in California and Washington and Oregon and Washington, D.C., in Chicago and Hawaii on how to use a machine and how to do it. And I think there's only, out of all the hundreds that took the course, there may be a couple that followed through with it.
It's surprising to me because, especially as people age, a lot of people are going to run into these issues.
It's epidemic in the country. There's like 40 million people that have some stage of macular.
Well, I don't know if it's epidemic, just a bunch of old people and age-related disease, degeneration.
Right. It's the leading cause of blindness in elderly, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's something that people need to, in our profession, need to look at. I mean, I don't know if I understand why there isn't more done, because it is so rewarding to see this lady come in who can't read her watch and she can't see her granddaughter's face, and then after several treatments, she can even read her Bible again, and she can see again. And the way the machine is, that Joel eventually developed it's a self-treatment machine. So when I have patients, I train them to use the machine at home. It's about the size of a pack of playing cards, right? And I build glasses for them, so they just put these glasses on, and the machine is automated. It goes through a whole sequence of the 4 frequencies and takes all of about 5 minutes for treatment. They do it 3 times a day, and more than 80% of them their vision improves.
And you don't have to use acupuncture needles to do this. I mean, you can.
You could.
If you're in your clinic, but...
You could, but you're
for self-treatment, it's possible to do it without.
It is, and then it's practical. They can do it every day, and it's economical.
Well, there's a way to change the world.
Yeah. So I've been doing that for a long time, but eventually I had to get out of Boston. I finished my studies with So I came back to LA, and Stephen Rosenblatt followed me back a few months later, and I had completed my basically 5.5 years of study, and wanted to begin doing something, but Stephen wanted to start a course here in LA when we were in LA. So he and I started the second course, the course in Los Angeles, which eventually became the California Acupuncture College.
Mm-hmm. Wasn't Rick Gold involved with that also?
Who?
Rick Gold?
No.
He wasn't.
No.
Okay.
It was just Stephen and I. We did have William Prensky come out to do a one-day seminar with a group. We had Dr. So come out for a little while. No. Eric Stevens and Jacques Marmarco were two of our students. You probably know them.
I have heard both. In fact, Jacques was recently on the History series.
Yeah, he was one of my students, yeah.
He's been at it a long time.
Yeah, he had done some work in France before that, but then his family moved here, and somehow he found us. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're teaching in California again, L.A.
Yep. And this.
How do you get up to Oregon?
Well, that was interesting. So Stephen and I are back in California, 1975, and we'd start that course. Okay, and so then I had not taken the Oregon exam yet, and so I went up in December of 75 and took that and passed that. That was quite a deal.
So Oregon had an exam in 1975.
It had an exam in 1974.
In 74?
Yeah.
How did that get arranged?
Well, so...
Do you have any idea?
Yeah, so the National Acupuncture Association, we had done courses up in Oregon, along with some other places. We were trying to work out we also helped in Nevada, too, although that turned out kind of odd. But in Oregon, yeah, we're doing classes in and we were able to put people together. There were a couple of Chinese acupuncturists in that area that were treating patients. Those patients testified before the legislature. We got it passed, but the National Acupuncture Association spent most of its time working to get the Board of Medical Examiners to cooperate. And the board finally did, putting acupuncture as a committee under the board, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so they started. Prensky and Mifu Shu were licensed actually in 73. And I think they did have an exam in 73, and then several exams in 74, but I didn't get up. But then I'm off in Boston, finally come back, and I'm not ready till then anyway. And I went up in 75, passed the exam, and that's when I got license number 27. And the other person who passed the exam with me was Yosho Manaka, and he was licensed 26. But the other interesting thing is that there had been almost 1,200 people take that exam before I did.
1,200?
1,200.
They failed a lot of people.
They failed almost everybody. So the first day we took the written exam, and there were two parts to it. There was, Chinese medicine. One of the pages was all in Chinese characters, too. That was interesting. And then there was a science section. And if you passed that, but to pass it, I think it was not like this 70% thing. I don't know how it worked, but it was very difficult. Anyway, so Yoshio Manaka and I passed it. And the next day we went in for our practical live before the Board of Medicine with the acupuncturist. The head of the medical board was there. An advisor to the medical board was there. Actually, a brain surgeon, Joel Sears, who later became a friend of mine. And we had to treat, and I actually literally treated the chair of the medical board of examiners. The state of Oregon is my practical exam. And then they were questioning. And then we found out later that Yoshi and I both passed. And I came back to Oregon. I came back to California. And married at the time, had a baby who was just a year old, and decided that I wanted to get out of California. I wanted to get out of Los Angeles. I just didn't like the environment. I wanted to be able to practice my medicine, but I didn't want to raise my son in the Los Angeles that I grew up in. It was just, so I only had a couple choices.
Was it a different Los Angeles? Was it a different Los Angeles by that point?
Yeah, it was starting to really change. Yeah. I mean, I could see it was changing, and I just didn't like the atmosphere. So I thought, okay, well, there's not too many places I can go, but Oregon is one of them.
Yeah, it's a nice place.
And I'd been in Oregon before, and I loved Oregon. So I thought, okay, well, within a year, no matter what, we'll get up there. And that's what happened. About a year later, and like October of 76, I moved to Oregon, took over a practice, worked with Mi-Fu Shu, who was going into retirement, basically kind of took over his practice. And I've been here ever since.
You also have a license in Washington State.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so in the beginning in Oregon, you had to have a referral from a physician, right? Okay. But you also had to have an in-house physician or another physician that was connected to your practice to re-examine the patient to make sure it would be okay that they had acupuncture.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we see the conundrum in that.
I mean, really. I mean, it's like, really? Okay. So one physician that I worked with, Sam Moon, he was from Kentucky, but he had come out to the West, and he was also working up in White Salmon, Washington. And I used to go up there on the weekends and treat patients with him sometimes and work with him in the ER room, which was interesting. A lot of country Western bars and bar fights and guys coming in all banged up. So, and he taught me how to do sutures and help them stitch guys up. Anyway, well, at one point he said, you know what? He said, we got to do something about the fact that you're licensed in Oregon, but there's no licensing here in Washington. And so we went to the medical board, the two of us, and basically said, okay, we need to figure out how we can allow trained acupuncturists to practice here in Washington. And I'm licensed in Oregon, and I'm licensed in California. And how do we do that? And they said, if you will help us write the language for the law, the statute, and the regulations for Washington, we'll let you do acupuncture.
That's pretty damn open-minded.
I was really open-minded. I mean, how crazy is that, Michael? I mean,
Well, like, okay, on one hand, it's crazy. I'm with you. On the other hand, sometimes there's a momentum.
Yeah, there was.
To things. There's a momentum to development. There's a momentum to things coming into manifestation, okay?
Yeah, that's true.
And look, you're an interesting character because you're just working on a horse because I wonder if this can work. Next thing you know, you're qualified to work on horses.
Yeah.
All right? And then, okay, we'll head out to Boston because it's an environment that will make it easier to practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's other places that are cottoning to the idea of licensed acupuncturists.
Yeah.
And you happen to be a person who's had a lot of experience with firsts when it comes to licensure. So
yeah,
I guess it just fell to you in a way. That's fascinating.
Yeah. And so there was no such thing as a licensed acupuncturist at the time. So they created they gave me, my license number was ACUPA, Acu Physician Assistant dash, and then 471. So I was like the 471st physician assistant, but it was AcuPA anyway. And that was in 1970.
Okay, so it's kind of a bridge sort of credential.
Yeah, and that was in 78, and then I helped them write the language, and then later I was called up there because they wanted to rewrite it, and so the current acupuncturist who was on the board called me and said, you got to come and help me rewrite this. And I said, okay, I tell you what, if we're gonna rewrite this, we're gonna put everything in, including the kitchen sink. And so one of the things he said, why does it say aquapuncture? And I said, that's injectable. that's injectable. We're going to put it in there, see what happens. And he said, isn't that risky? I said, no, because you put in extra stuff, and then they can kick a few things out, but you're still left with something. Yeah, they passed it.
You might as well ask for everything you want.
They didn't kick anything out. They passed it just the way I wrote it. It was, again, crazy. Different then. Very different.
And this is in 78.
Yeah. That was in 78, yeah.
Oh, that's fine. I landed in Seattle in 1978.
Oh.
I had dropped out of college because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, and I headed west because it sounded like a good idea, and I stopped in Seattle to visit a buddy of mine I knew from St. Louis.
Uh-huh.
And I just didn't leave.
Yeah, you loved it, right?
That was 1978. That was an amazing time.
Yeah, it was.
To be there. Holy smokes. Yeah.
Yeah, so, I got to Boston. Another thing had happened that, got back from Boston, California to Oregon, and I thought, okay, I have to keep treating animals here. So I went to the veterinary board here, and they said, oh, this is fine. Yeah, you have the credentials to do this. But the Veterinary Association guy, it was right next door. They had their meeting. They knew what the agenda was. The chair of the Veterinary Association walked in and then stood there and told the board that they objected entirely to the idea of a non-veterinarian doing acupuncture in animals. And the chair of the veterinary board said, you're entitled to your opinion, but today Gene Bruno is going to be listed as a acupuncturist who can do veterinary acupuncture under the supervision of a veterinarian. And then the Oregon Vet Association chair said, what kind of supervision? And the chair of the veterinary board said, whatever kind of supervision the supervising vet likes. So it's like, so most of the time it was very indirect supervision.
Mm-hmm.
And today in Oregon, on referral, acupuncturists can treat animals. There's a number of states where they can.
I was wondering about that because I have people who have asked me over the years if I treat their critters. And, I've done it from time to time. Mostly, I started with my own when I was in acupuncture school. Had a cat who, kind of getting up there in years, and her hips were a little arthritic.
Uh-huh.
She had trouble with the stairs. She was okay. She'd get up them, but she wasn't scampering up them anymore. She was kind of working her way up the stairs. And
uh-huh.
I remember thinking to myself, I was in my second year, and I tried to think about where points might be, similar to what you were doing.
Right.
With the horses. But just taking my own best guess. And the weirdest thing was, this was a sweet little calico cat who would sit next to you, but would sit on you for about 5 seconds, and then it was like she's sitting next to you again. And I remember putting the cat in my lap and putting in a few needles, and the cat just went to sleep in my lap for 20 minutes.
Isn't that something?
I'm like, whose damn cat is this? This is not my cat. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
And she'd scamper up the stairs, and like once every few weeks I'd treat her because, that was about the schedule that worked. And it just blew me away.
Yeah.
At, first of all, the change in her demeanor.
Right.
And secondly, what it would do for her. But yeah, I've wanted to treat my patients' critters, but I'm also cognizant of scopes of practice and...
Yeah.
I don't need to create any trouble for myself.
No, and you'd want to actually maybe really train with somebody who has some experience.
Yeah, actually take a course and make sure I'm getting the right points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in California, a number of my students okay, so the first real course in animal acupuncture was done by Noreen Javornik at Tai Sophia back like in 1999, 2000.
Mm.
Okay, where they had a course there up, and then when Tai Sophia was taken over and bought by it was a Maryland University of Integrative Health and Sciences, they continued the course. It wasn't every year, but it was every few years. The last course they had was in 2015 or something like that. It doesn't exist. They don't even have acupuncture at that college anymore. But, Noreen was teaching these classes, and in Maryland, they got the law changed so that there's not even any referral required in Maryland. Okay. And in Oregon and Utah and a number of states, it's just a referral. In most states, there isn't any regulations. You have to work in cooperation and under a vet's license.
Mm-hmm.
And so a number of my students in California who practice there, they just work under a vet's license.
Okay. So if I could find a vet who was copacetic with what I wanted to do, and I could prove competence, I could probably do this here in St. Louis.
Yeah, that's true. I recommend, though, that maybe you get my books first and talk to me some more.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I want to make sure I had some skill other than, my pets. And I've worked on a few friends' pets just because they were in a bad way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like, you might as well try, because otherwise this animal's going down. And
yeah.
It's been extraordinary.
But the thing is, I mean, so I retired from private practice a few years ago. I mean, I still do see patients for macular, et cetera, but mostly my whole goal in being involved, besides just treating a few friends, patients, is animal acupuncture, because this is our domain. John and I were the two people who taught the vets how to do animal acupuncture, which they call veterinary acupuncture, which originally they called traditional Chinese veterinary medicine.
Which is kind of funny, given that they hadn't been doing it for a long time.
Right, I know. But basically, veterinarians can be very territorial about this. I mean, extremely so. Not as so open as the medical doctors used to be in the early days of our profession to us. But my goal is to bring it back. This is our domain. Okay, so they're doing veterinary acupuncture, the kind of veterinary acupuncture that John and I taught them. Okay, but as far as Chinese diagnostics go, as far as the intricacies of our medicine that are involved, they don't have that kind of training. That's fine. The point is, if animals get help, that's good, okay? But the road to making it easier for acupuncturists who do animal acupuncture, who are properly trained and are skilled in it, to practice is actually going to be a longer road than it took in terms of what it took for human licensing. But that's okay. I mean, there are courses. The National Academy of Animal Acupuncture is offering courses here in the next year for horse and dog. There's national certification for animal acupuncture. The American Board of Animal Acupuncture will.
Do you have to be a veterinarian to get that?
No, you can't be a vet. You have to be only an acupuncturist.
Oh, okay. So there's a bridge.
So the vets have their own. So the International Veterinary Acupuncture Society was the group that John and I helped put together with the vets we were training and some others who were interested. We had actually created the National Acupuncture Association Veterinary Department, which was just vets, right? And John and I. But then some other vets said, hey, we want to do this too. And so we just joined them together. Back in 74 and 75, IVIS was created. And they train vets and they certify vets in acupuncture according to their program and their protocols. But the American Board of Animal Acupuncture only does certification for acupuncturists. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah. Licensed acupuncturist, yeah.
It's something I think of from time to time. Look, I got plenty to keep me busy. It's not like I need something else to do right now.
Yeah. Right.
I'm trying to take things off my plate, not put things on. But Gene, kind of like you, something gets my attention, And I just want to see where the hell it'll go. And especially when it has the potential to be helpful.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's why we do this, right?
I feel like I've had a good run with it. I've not been at it as long as you, but it's not a bad way to live a life.
No. Yeah. I mean, the rewards are kind of endless when you see, whether it's people or horses or whatever, respond to this treatment, and that other things have been tried and they were not help, but now they're help. There's it's like grace of God almost, in a way.
Every time I see people get better, there's a part of me, it's not that I don't believe in it, because I've seen it happen enough, but there's a part of me that stands in awe and amazement of what our mind-body contraption is capable of.
Yeah, isn't it just amazing? I mean, it's just...
It is.
Yeah, and and awe. I think you captured the feeling that I feel too. It's just you're in awe. Yeah.
So you're mostly retired these days.
Yeah.
Still keep your hands in it a bit. Are you teaching some? Are you still teaching the animal acupuncture?
So just finished a course a year and a half ago at college in Arizona, Pima. Our group taught 2 courses there, and our group won't be teaching there anymore. What we're now doing is working with the National Academy of Animal Acupuncture, and there was a course that was set for this fall, but more than likely it'll be in the fall of 26. It'll be like an 11-module course in animal acupuncture. Half the course will be online, the didactic, but then the rest of it will be clinical live.
What a great idea.
Yep.
It's such a wonderful way, I think, to use the internet technology.
Mm-hmm.
I keep wondering at what point are schools going to be really adopting that for human acupuncture, if we can do that, to be able to take incredible teachers, record what they have, use the connective abilities of the internet,
right,
to teach basics. You can do that pretty inexpensively and save people some money too. That's nice.
Mm-hmm.
And then you come together for the stuff where you have to be together and in person.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense.
And the thing with, like, in particular, this course, I mean, it's true probably with some others, we have people come to this course from all over the United States. We've got someone coming down from Canada for this next course. Well, traveling costs a lot, in order, and so,
Mm-hmm.
The internet allows us to do this didactic, a lot of it online. Obviously, the clinical has to be live, and that's fine, but still, it offers, there's a certain convenience there for a lot of people that would make it very difficult for them if they had to travel for every module.
Yeah, it becomes a lot.
Yeah.
It does. Well, holy smokes, man. You've been at this, you've seen a lot of changes with the acupuncture world, including its beginning.
Including the beginning, yeah.
You're retired. I don't know how in touch you are with sort of the state of the profession as it is these days. We have schools closing. We have other professions that are getting their hands into acupuncture. They give it a different name, but it's, acupuncture is acupuncture. You can tell what it looks like.
Yeah, like the dry needling people who just got a law passed in Oregon last week.
Yeah. Oh, they finally did, huh?
Yeah, it's interesting because we had a court decision against the physical therapists and the chiropractors. Court decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then the Oregon legislature, well, the physical therapists have a ton of money, and they interestingly did a kind of an end run that not only fooled the acupuncture lobbyists, but fooled the chiropractic lobbyists, because in their bill they were going to be doing spinal manipulations too.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, they were going to do vaccination injections. I mean, they just want the whole 9 yards, What?
Well, I know somebody that wrote an acupuncture law that asked for the whole 9 yards too.
Yeah, I know, but at least we were trained in it. They don't have any training requirements. I mean, So in the legislation, a physical therapy assistant could have done all these things.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, no, it's ridiculous.
Okay.
Anyway, so a lot of it got cut out, but then they changed needle injection to dry needling. And so anyway, I'm sure the physical therapists in Oregon are going to find themselves in court again.
Yeah.
Because, but I mean, like I say, there was already a court case. But you know how legislatures.
This is partly how you do it, right? You just keep pushing and
yeah.
You see who runs out of money first.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right. There's that. So, but given some of the challenges that we have, and again, one of them is other professions noticing that, hey, this acupuncture stuff is pretty cool and it works really well. So they get their hands on it however they can. I understand. Look, acupuncturists get their hands on stuff that didn't come from Chinese medicine and use it. So, it's kind of the way humans work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a...
What do you see as some of the particular challenges we have right now? And for that matter, what opportunities we might have in a time of difficulty?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine if someone is properly trained in an area, no matter what their title might be, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I find a problem is there's so many there's different standards for it. Like, oh, really? So chiropractors can do acupuncture when they have 50 hours of training in Arizona, or maybe 100 hours? Really?
Here in Missouri, they have 100 hours.
But what concerns me is, how about patient safety?
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me, is the patient lost in all of this somewhere? We don't care about the patient anymore? So, yeah. I mean, I've known medical doctors, for example, that realized how complex this is, and so they went and did the full boat training at certified acupuncture schools to be trained. Well, yeah, because they have a conscience. They have a moral standard. I mean, anyway.
I wonder how much of it comes down in some way to people that are really good at something, they make it look easy. And when it comes to things like acupuncture, on one hand, it looks pretty simple. You're putting a few needles in some places where there's, a fair amount of muscle and stuff like that. It looks somewhat simple. And here's the other thing. It's generally a very, very safe method if you've been properly trained. So there is that as well. In some ways, I wonder how much we're a victim of our own success. We've made it effective. We've made it safe. It has a good reputation for that.
Yeah.
Maybe it looks too easy.
I was thinking about the same thing because, earlier when we talked about the medical doctors that we were trying to train, because they said they were seriously interested, they thought just that, hey, this looks pretty simple. You just put a couple of needles in that area of the person's hand, and now, and then you put a needle there, and their headache's gone. That should be simple. But because they were real, because they were serious in what they were looking at, when they realized how complex it was, they just finally said, hey, I would like to keep learning this, but this is much more than I imagined. It isn't so simple.
Yeah, it's not a weekend course.
Yeah, it's not a weekend course. And we actually kind of anticipated that could result in that they would understand. I mean, because part of our motivation was to at least enlist them in an effort through the National Acupuncture Association and the other people we knew in California to get some kind of licensing for properly trained practitioners. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, there's a very good school training program. I think it's in LA. I forget. If you tell me the guy's name, I'll remember it. And specifically for MD doctors to teach them acupuncture.
Are you talking about Helms' course?
I'm talking. That's it. That's his name, Helms. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting. So he was hanging around UCLA back when we were doing this, and he came up with originally with his 150-hour course, which that was not a good thing. But then I think his course is 250 hours now.
It's much longer now.
Is it more than 250?
I don't know exactly how many hours.
Oh, okay.
I can tell you this. I went to a meeting of the medical acupuncturists. God, it was probably 12 years ago now. It was a while ago. They were here in St. Louis, and I went to it. And I got to tell you, the MD docs that had learned their acupuncture, they were so lit up about acupuncture. I mean, I expected to find a group of people like, well, we're doctors and we already know most of this stuff. But no, they were humble and they were thirsty to learn. I was so impressed with so many of them. And I heard more than one of them tell me that if they hadn't learned acupuncture, they wouldn't still be doctoring. You know, it just changed things for them.
I've known a lot of people who went through the course, and it's just like you say, they're open-minded. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They're inquiring. They're respectful. They know it's more. They actually know it's much more than what they've studied. You know, it's bigger than that. Because the system they use is a very particular one. I think, you know, it's a French energetic method of acupuncture, you know.
We studied a little bit of that when I was in school.
Yeah, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. But yeah, they're very respectful. The ones that I've known have been, because they understand something about the complexity of the medicine.
Well, and there's something, too, I think, about a person's character. You just said it. Open-minded, respectful, inquiring. Anybody coming from that kind of a stance, you're probably going to want to dig in and you know, appreciate what you got.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, that's interesting. I'm glad that they've increased the hours. I mean, I do know. I thought they were never more than 200, but that it started.
Well, here's the other thing that I think about anyone who gets a taste for this work. Whatever schooling we get that gets us to a license, that's the beginning. That's your driver's license.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's not the end.
Absolutely.
It's the beginning. And like you were saying earlier in this conversation, Gene, it's a lifelong study. There is something interesting to learn your whole life through.
Yeah. Which is part of the reward that it gives, that it's a living thing like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, what is something that recently you've learned or discovered that got your attention, maybe even changed the way you practice a bit?
Well, it's something that's recent, but it's something that's recurs, right? Okay. Mm-hmm. When I treat horses, and horses are always they're always communicating with you. When people walk up to a horse, they look at a horse sometimes and they go, "Oh, that's a horse." No, they're talking. They're communicating all the time. Okay, but it's subtle. Mm. Okay, it may be the change in the position of their ears. It may be the way that they're licking their lip. It may be or how they change the way they stand in terms of their body. They're very subtle things. Or it may be just the muscles on their face, micro movements of muscle. Okay. And so so it's not unusual because I've been doing it for 50 years, right? That I notice this, right? But it always kind of impacts me as, oh, this is a different horse today than this horse that I saw last week. Mm. This is a different day. This is the horse. This is Arrow, the horse, but this is a different horse. And so what that reminds me of is that, in fact, when I see a patient, this is a different patient than the one I thought I knew. Who is this patient today? And so you asked me about what is something new. Well, it always, I mean, it's not new, but it is. It always is kind of a surprise to me that how important it is to look with fresh eyes at a patient that I might have seen 10 or 20 times over a couple of years.
How do you see them anew?
Yeah.
When you think you already know them pretty well.
Right.
And especially if you've had success in helping them. Oh, I know what I'm doing.
Oh, I know what I'm doing, right?
But who are they today?
But who are they right now in this moment?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so it's always a little bit of a shock, but it's a refreshing reminder of how I need to approach this medicine and be open to what I see and what I hear and what I learn.
We get to use all of our senses. Well, Gene Bruno, this has been a delightful conversation. I thank you so much for your time and a glimpse into those early days and answering some of my questions, especially about the anesthesiology and all that. It was kind of I didn't know if it was a myth or real or what. And again, there's so much that we've talked about here today. It makes me wonder why it doesn't have a bigger reach. So maybe this conversation will fire some people up to fill in some of those gaps.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me on today. I've really enjoyed our discussion together, Michael. Thank you.
It's been a delight. Maybe I'll come out and take a class and learn how to treat critters.
Not a problem. We can do that. Yeah.
All right. Take good care.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, that wraps up this conversation with Gene. Every time I think about those folks who got curious about acupuncture and just didn't stop, how they managed to see opportunities instead of obstacles, how in a time of protest, shifting culture, and restless cultural questions, they managed to persevere and build something positive. They saw problems, and instead of tearing down what they hated, they built something positive that they could inhabit. I appreciate how Gene exemplified how skepticism is not an obstacle, but a doorway. That he followed a curiosity about acupuncture and somehow trusted where it would lead him. I was struck by his account of the razor edges moment when acupuncture might have been taken over entirely by the biomedicine community, leaving no space for non-medical practitioners. It's because of persistence, organizing, and a refusal to let go that acupuncture has the shape it does today. His story of reintroducing veterinarian acupuncture to the world, what began as an improvisation with a dying horse, it shows how much history is made by simply saying yes to the unlikely. If there's a spirit to carry forward, it's this. Medicine grows not from certainty, but from curiosity, persistence, and the willingness to follow questions to wherever they might lead.